One of the things that held me back in trying to start recording these in the first place, among other things, was the difficulty in trying to come up with how to introduce myself. It's a little difficult to encapsulate one's being in just a few sentences or a few minutes. So what I came up with is talking about the importance of names. We're all given a name at birth or shortly thereafter, and whether it's as mystical as some might make it sound, whether it's divine foreknowledge, whether it's subconsciously adapting to and filling in the shape that such a name bestows, mine happens to mean shepherd and wanderer. For whatever reason, I've always felt an affinity for trying to bring people together, to, take care of them, to protect them. I've certainly built a reasonably large family that I try to do my best to lead to shelter and to make sure that they have food. And I guess wanderer can be synonymous because that's what a shepherd does, follows the flock and tries to find a place where taking care of them is possible. I've lost count of how many times I've moved in the course of my life. It's at least 24, maybe as many as 3. I recently tried to count up, and I believe I've made 14 transatlantic and 3 transcontinental moves. It's still bewildering to me whether it's worthwhile to try to record this, but like many others, just having this for myself as a form of therapy, I guess, is worthwhile in itself. But the idea would be to try to help others and see if I can be of assistance in helping them avoid the same mistakes that I made. It seems to me sometimes that we live our lives, or at least certainly I feel like I've lived my life, trying to make my way through a maze in the darkness. We are given remarkably little guidance and instruction that's useful in terms of how to navigate this landscape, but I've been very fortunate to always find torches, guideposts, candles, lanterns along the way that have helped me. Every once in a while, I would come across a springboard or a trampoline that allowed me to spring higher into the air and be able to look at the walls of the labyrinth, even if only for a split second. And then, of course, I would waste my time convincing myself that I hadn't seen correctly, and of course the shape of the walls didn't etch themselves into my mind strongly enough, and so of course I would still get lost and bump into walls and bruise my forehead and get stuck in dead ends. I've amassed a bit of experience over the course of the decades, and in thinking about what I wanted to talk about on the channel, I came up with a couple of things, and I'm curious to know whether any of these are of any interest. I'm also curious about the workings of the omnipotent algorithm, and so if you feel so inclined, drop a comment as to which niche you think you yourself fall into that might have led you to even be watching this in the first place. So I spent 2.5 decades analyzing media, analyzing, for the most part, social media content, although of course mainstream press and social media are, to me, not as indistinguishable, but fall into the same category. They're part of the same information ocean that we're all forced to swim in, whether we want to or not, and it's increasing, growing exponentially by the day, and it gets a little challenging to navigate. I hope to be able to impart some, understandings, findings that I've stumbled upon across the years. Originally, I dedicated my studies to cognitive neuroscience. I wanted to understand how the human mind works. I studied neurobiology, I studied psychology. I ended up not giving up exactly, but becoming disenchanted with or disillusioned with the discipline of psychology. The main impression that I got is that the workings and the function of the human mind and the behavior of humans was a much more complex topic, and that we were really still at the stage of chiseling away at it with a pickaxe and a hammer. But really the problem for me, at least, was that the more I studied, the more I learned about developmental psychology, personality psychology, abnormal psychology. It seemed very much to me like the case of the elephant and the blind man, that the entire science was composed of mutually contradictory and unprovable premises, and there was very little that I could see in the way of a holistic type of thinking that might unify, that might be able to synthesize these approaches. And so I ended up also not wanting to spend my life in a lab, and I distinctly remember thinking about the fact that I would much rather be in the company of humans than sort of isolated in academia. And so, and of course the other thing was that life happens to you when you're busy making other plans. And just after graduation, I founded a family and found myself in need of resources to take care of them. And so instead of continuing on the track and getting a master's or a PhD, I launched myself into finding work and beginning my career and securing the immigration papers necessary to make this happen. But I still find the topic fascinating. It's not that it went away. I tried to keep as much as I could abreast of developments and to continue to learn. Life is a great teacher, of course. So specifically, the subtopic that I do have a bit of familiarity with is mental illness, specifically bipolar affective disorder, as it's called. The other sort of element that has irked me and continues to is that it seems that the more we advance in psychology, the more we advance in the issues of mental health, whether you approach it from a therapeutic or a pharmaceutical viewpoint, is that it seems to me that the more we know, the more we learn, the more frameworks we have, the more it's used for pathologization, for labeling, for segmenting, for dividing, for oppressing, for exploiting people, rather than for true learning and for healing in many cases. It's an unfortunate byproduct of essentially incentives and money. But coming back to it, my central problem is that the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the DSM, that is supposed to be the tome of describing all the things that are wrong with the human mind and the human psyche, has grown exponentially. It was about this thick when I originally started studying. Now it's at least twice as big, and it really sometimes feels to me like it's trying to methodically pathologize the entire spectrum of human behavior and human thinking. And that very much is something that I rail against. And even the term mental illness itself, I believe to be a contradiction in terms. I think that it is quite possible. And of course, I only have anecdotal evidence, but what there is, I'll try to share with regards to how one might find a way to find a path out of sort of the darkness that these quote-unquote illnesses represent. The other element is just where I live. I've tried to find a place that is closer to nature. It's something that is, in my opinion, one of the most important things, and like everything else, is connected to everything else. But it affords a tremendous possibility. So, with no foreknowledge, experience, or even a very detailed plan, I've embarked on a quest to try to found a home and try to become closer to nature, to be self-sustaining or self-sufficient as much as possible, to get away from quote-unquote consumer society. That's, in my mind, poisonous and destructive to us as a species. But perhaps more importantly, what I'm trying to do is to figure out a way to create a way to do this by allowing others to share, and to create a sanctuary, a retreat, a place, an interface where others, not just me, can enjoy the benefits of the nature around me. And I invite you to join me on the journey. I'll try to keep it as engaging and interesting as I can. We'll see whether it's something that I can do, but I hope you have a blessed day. Enjoy the opportunities that life provides. Try to notice life around you. It's very easy to keep blinders on and not even be cognizant of the wonders around us. I hope to talk to you soon.